Hey YouTubers, welcome to DidgieTalks. We all have a good review, right? But if like me you want to know what it's like to actually live with something, then my Living With series has got you covered. Today we're talking about living with a Tesla. Today we're going to be talking about software release 2019.36.2.1. I've had to wait a while for an update to my car. Since my last video, I haven't had any of the releases in between. I simply didn't get the notification that the software was ready. Starting to feel like I was being a bit left out, but no, I got the notification for 36.2.1 a couple of days ago, and I've installed it to the car, and so far so good. One thing I do want to do in this video too is I often explain that my videos are pretty subjective, so not really using much scientific data to qualify whether or not autopilot has actually improved. So for this video and some videos going forward, I'm going to recruit a forum buddy of mine, Enginerds. Now Enginerds does some proper scientific testing and has tracked the performance of autopilot through many hundreds and thousands of miles of driving. That's not hundreds of thousands, but hundreds and thousands of miles of driving. And he takes actual data recordings, if you like, through a method that he's devised himself, which I'll let him explain later on. But what that will do is it will enable me to share with you some graphs and charts of how autopilot is performing for Enginerds based on his scientific data collection. So a big shout out to Enginerds. I want to thank him really for letting me use his data in this video. I'll be trying to use his data going forward, so it's fairly consistent, but as you'll see from what I've put on the screen, it's really good data. It gives you a real idea of how autopilot is tracking in terms of its performance improvement over the various releases, and I love the way Data Engineer collects this stuff and records this stuff. And so with his permission and with my thanks, I'll be using his data in forward videos as well. So the other thing I'm going to do, so I don't bore the pants off of you guys, is I'm going to run my tests. What does the car do here? It sees it and slows down. Well done. I'm going to run these tests and really only share with you the things that from my point of view are worth sharing, so noteworthy. So there's an example there. I'm using autopilot through a village, and that sharp 90-degree left-hand turn, the car doesn't like it. The road markings are a bit odd there, so I always have to take it off and actually manually perform that turn. But nevertheless, as you'll see from this test, it will pick up cars on the side of the road. It's going to stop because that one's half in and half out. I'm going to drive around it. But there's a good example of the kind of things I'm going to share with you where autopilot is doing a great job, but still needs a little bit of work. It isn't fully autonomous yet. It's simply a driver aid. And as I say, it's really designed to work best on dual carriageways and motorways. So let's dive into what we got with this current release. And we'll start with scheduled departure. So this is a feature which allows you to set your charging to do two things. First thing it will do is it will charge your car and finish that charging before 6 a.m. So in order to make most of better tariffs, so if you are on a dual tariff which gives you cheaper charging overnight, it will make the most of that cheaper charging. And the other thing it does is it will then ask you what time you plan to depart, and it will prepare the cabin so it's as comfortable as possible at the departure time. So I set this up on my car last night, and I got the notification that charging completed at 5:58 this morning. And when I got in the car this morning to go to the conference I'm off to, then the cabin was a wonderful temperature. So far so good. We love that. The other thing that's probably worth noting is even if you haven't got dual tariff and a cheaper tariff overnight, it's better to charge the car in the evening at night and before the morning, when most people get up and really start to pull on the power grid, so put their kettles on and heating their water and all the rest of it. So getting your car charged up and finished before then is only a good thing. The other thing that came with this release is automatic navigation, and what this feature essentially does is it checks your calendar, it decides whether or not you've got a journey coming up, and it will set your navigation on that journey, so when you get in the car it's already set up, so it will preempt what it thinks you're going to do and where it thinks you're going to go. It will also look at whether you do a regular journey to work in the mornings, and therefore you can set it up so on weekdays, for example, it will do its charge overnight, finishing by 6 a.m, and it will set up your regular route to work as a pre-navigation, if you like. So that's scheduled departure and automatic navigation. That's all that I had in the release notes, so that's all I'm aware of. I did also have, when I was doing the install, the usual notification which says it's updating autopilot. I'll show you a picture of what that looks like on the screen. So as you would expect, and as for most Tesla owners, you know, that's the big thing. We love our autopilot. We love to see whether there have been any improvements to autopilot performance, and that's what I'll be testing here today. So far so good. I've given you some examples of autopilot operating through some village driving, a couple of examples of where you need to take control. That's all well within what we would expect. The car isn't boasting or designed so much to cope with some of those particular items, but I still think it performs fantastically well in these conditions, in these environments. Road marking's good, fairly sweeping turns. Let's put autopilot back on, and yeah, it takes a real load off of me. I often use autopilot on these roads all the time, and it does a fantastic job. And yes, I do have to take over, and yes, I do have to be vigilant and be aware and always be ready to take over manually, but nevertheless I think autopilot performs fantastically well in these conditions, and I use it probably 70-80% of my driving in this sort of environment will be on autopilot. So really good. But like I said, I'm not going to bore the pants off you. I'm going to cut this video down to only those things which I think are worth talking about and noteworthy for the video, and I will be testing autopilot and navigate on autopilot on the motorway too. So strap in, sit back, take it easy. Hope you enjoyed the video, and let's see how we get on. Okay, so by the magic of GoPro and by the magic of film, a bunch of things have changed from driving down my country roads and through my villages to hitting the dual carriageway. I said I'd get some dual carriageway, some autopilot and navigate on autopilot testing in, but a few things have changed for this. We're going to try something a little different. So I've changed the camera that films the dashboard. Hopefully that's going to be a little bit clearer for you with a lot less vibration, so that's going to look better. I'm no longer recording on my iPhone my voice, so I'm going to record that on the GoPros, so we'll see how that turns out. I'll do my best in production to make sure it's at an adequate volume, and hopefully it's clear enough so you can hear me okay. And yeah, so it's also night time, it's also been raining, and we're in a bit of traffic. So lots of things have changed in terms of how I normally do my video, but also a great test for autopilot and navigating autopilot and the Teslas in general in what is essentially real world conditions, nighttime, rain in traffic. So let's see how we get on. Right now it's already telling me that it wants me to be on the inside lane, but clearly I can't make the turn because it's marked the line and the car's as red, and that's no surprise. That's absolutely right. So it's doing a really strange thing now. So it's slowed right down to slow and match the car on my left. And whilst in navigating autopilot, it does that to me quite often. It's given me a long gap between me and the car in front. I'm going to let it do it for a little while. And navigating autopilot's come off because I'm heading into a 50-mile-an-hour dual carriageway zone, so that comes off. But I'm going to keep an eye on that because I get that happen to me quite often, especially on this road, where when I'm navigating autopilot, it tries to match me to the speed of the car in the inside lane, and obviously that's not what I want to happen. I often talk about this. You would have seen just on the dash there that the speed limit for the road I'm on has gone to 50 miles an hour, yet the max speed is still at 70. So were it not for the cars in front, we would now be travelling at 70 mile an hour in a 50 mile an hour zone. I don't know why it does that. I see that often when the speed limit goes to 50, and the previous speed limit was 70, it won't reduce you down to 50. It doesn't see speed limits on overhead gantries. etc, etc. But it absolutely knows I should be doing 50 miles an hour, because the 50 in the red circle says that it knows that this is a 50 mile an hour road. However, max speed is still 70. So it always does that at this point in this road. I appreciate any comments from anybody. If anybody knows why it does that, if anybody can give me any info on why it won't bring the speed from 70 down to 50, why it maintains 70 as its max speed. Okay, so it's always about this road sign on the left that Navigate on Autopilot kicks back in. That's fairly consistent. So we're back into Navigate on Autopilot now. So it's now keeping me in the overtaking lane, and that's probably where I'd want to be if I was driving or controlling it all totally myself. It's matching the speed of the car in front, so that's getting faster, so are we. And there we go again. I think the car is slowing for some reason. It's letting the car in front get away from us, and I think it's looking to match the speed of the car on my left, pretty much. Nope, now it's gone past it and it's speeding up. So yeah, some really unusual behaviour there. It does that an awful lot to me on this road. I'm not sure what it's doing exactly. It's gone back into what I would expect it to do now and started matching the speed of the car in front. But I get that slowing down and appearing to match the speed of the inside lane car a lot on this road. Anybody who's got any ideas as to why that's happening, I'd really appreciate your feedback and your comments. I might drop a note to the guys at Tesla, see if I can get a response from them as to why it does that, but I think you guys out there probably have a better idea, so yeah, please let me know. Okay, so there's something interesting. I probably wasn't paying enough attention to the warnings about turning the wheel, and I've now just been told that autopilot will not be available for the rest of this journey. So I said I wanted to keep this video short, and through a few more hours of driving, I didn't really pick up anything on autopilot that would suggest it was any better or worse, but as I stated at the beginning of the video, my tests are pretty subjective, and with the help of Enginerds, I'm hoping to have some data points which I can share with you in the very near future. I hope the video's been useful. I hope it's been helpful in terms of any decisions you want to make around whether or not you want to buy a Tesla. If you do, then please feel free to use my referral code. I'll put that in the description below. And thanks for watching, and please take care. Bye-bye.